Hey friends, my name is Steve Guttenberg. This is the Audiophiliac Daily Show. And today it's about building a system. And I get questions about this all the time. And I don't think I've ever quite lined it up this way. Because I see people buying systems in sort of a hodgepodge way. They buy speakers, or they buy cables, or they buy an amplifier or something. And it just sort of, it's too random. You need to have a plan with a sequence, and the sequence will be speakers first. And I think this is, if you're serious about building a system, the best sound you can for whatever your budget is, this is the way to do it. Start with speakers. Now, this has gone back and forth in the advice over the decades. Start with speakers, do this. Here's why I'm saying start with speakers. Speakers sound more different from each other than amplifiers do, or DACs do, or turntables do. They all sound different, but the degrees of difference are not the same. And speakers, from a clipped speaker to an ohm speaker to a magnepan speaker or a dyne audio speaker, they all sound really, really, really different. So your job as the beginning audiophile is to get as much experience as possible listening to different types of speakers. Now, if you need to start with something just to get going, of course, buy your first speaker. But once you get to that stage where you're serious about building a system, you have to somehow get exposed to different kinds of speakers. Box speakers, panel speakers, like magnepans, or electrostatic speakers, or omnidirectional speakers, or open baffle speakers. It's an educational process, and it has to be. Reading reviews or watching reviews on YouTube is part of it. It kind of whets your appetite for different kinds of sound. But it's not really a replacement for direct experience. You have a direction. You're going to buy a set of old quad electrostatic speakers. Great. You get those speakers. You save your pennies or dollars or pounds or euros, and you get the speakers that seem right for you. Fantastic. And whatever the rest of the system is, the amplifier, the sources and stuff, you make do because you got the speaker that's right. Now the speaker, here's why I'm suggesting speakers first, is because the speaker will determine the rest of it. If you bought, let's say, the best possible amplifier you could first, well then you may be locked into whatever amp, whatever speakers are going to work best with that amp. See? So, like, for example, I just reviewed the Deckware Super Zen Trio 2-watt amplifier. Now, that's kind of an outside choice, right? 2 watts. You wouldn't start with that, because if you started with that, you'd only be able to really get the best out of it with very high sensitivity speakers. But if you started with high sensitivity speakers, then the Zen would make sense. So you're buying the amp that best works with your speakers. Now, electrostatic speakers are not usually bought to be rocking out with and stuff, so ultimate power isn't required. It's all about purity, transparency, and you're going to buy the amp that would suit that speaker the best, the electrostatic, right? Magnepans, on the other hand, are very power-hungry speakers. The more current and watts you deliver to a magnepan, the happier the magnepan's going to be, and by extension, you, if you're the magnepan owner, right? So you buy the speaker first, and then you do your research as to what amplifiers work best with that type of speaker. Now, by that point, you will be down the road a piece in terms of your evolution as an audiophile. So then the next part of the chain that you're going to focus on is the source end, which would either be a DAC or a turntable, phono preamp, cartridge part of the system, right? And you will buy those pieces, the DAC and or turntable system, to best suit the strengths of the amplifier and the speakers you own, or you have selected through this journey. Now, as an aside, and I did a video about this, but it's worth repeating here. When you go to audio shows, remember them? Well, when they come back, eventually you'll see that this is true, but you would notice that most speaker companies use really, really, really good electronics with their speakers. So for example, I remember Andrew Jones, he's working for ELAC, and when the Unify UB5 stand mount speaker first came out, it was $500 a pair, and he was using it with multi-$1,000 Class D amplifiers. The name just popped out of my head, but I will put it on the screen below. Anyway, he took a $500 speaker and he played it with $3,000 or $4,000 or $5,000 worth of electronics in front of it to make that speaker sound as good as it can. And you know what? It works. Those speakers in particular, when you feed the UB5s really, really well, lots of current, lots of juice, lots of control, they light up. They are absolutely amazing. But if you took those UB5s and played them with an average $300 or $400 AV receiver, it's not so wonderful, right? So that speaker needs what it needs to sound its best. Now you might try asking the manufacturer of said speaker, your speaker, your choice, right? What amps work the best? So if you, like, for example, if you went over to the owner of the XYZ speaker company and said, hey, Joe, what's the best sound, what's the best match with your speakers other than the ones that are in your room right now at the show? They probably wouldn't tell you because they don't want to risk offending a dealer who carries their line who doesn't sell that brand of electronics. So they tend not to usually want to tell you, which is a drag. I understand and I relate, but I've been in this business long enough to know that's the case, and that's why. But it's still worth a try. That's my point here, is asking the speaker manufacturer and or designer what electronics work best with their speakers. You might get lucky. It's worth a shot. Anyway, I think what we've done here today is given you guys some focus who are building systems. Start with the best speakers you can get. Delay buying them until you have saved up the money or you have it in your budget to buy the speaker you really want. Don't do it in steps because you're going to lose money every time you get closer to that speaker. Just wait. Get something to hold you over. Get a cheap speaker to hold you over that maybe you'll use in a different room of your house or apartment or something. Start with something very modest and then figure out what your plan is and get that speaker and then build off the speaker. You know, go back from the speaker, from speaker to amplifier to preamplifier to DAC or phono preamp, turntable, etc., etc. Start at the speakers and figure out the rest of the system from there. So here's my advice. Whatever you do, don't just buy it because something got a rave review and you buy that amplifier, or another rave review, you buy a preamp, or please don't do that. Have a plan. Know where you're going. Know what you want out of this system. And get there. My name is Steve Guttenberg. This is still the Audiophiliac Daily Show, coming to you 4 days a week right now in the summertime. If you dig it, please subscribe. And when you do, hit that little notification bell when you do it. Because if you don't hit that bell, you might miss one of these incredibly brilliant episodes. But more seriously, you could check out the Patreon at patreon.com/audiophiliac. I say that really quickly now because there's a link to that directly below in the description box. So just check that out if I've made you interested or semi-interested. But while you're here, check out the playlist. There's playlists for speaker reviews. There you go. You get lots of ideas from those. Speaker reviews, headphone reviews, amplifier reviews, music reviews, interviews with everybody from John Grado at Grado to Andrew Jones at ELAC and everybody. Everybody's here. It's the place to be. This is the center. This is the center of the audiophile universe. Right here, right in this room. I just feel the energy coursing through this room when I'm talking to you guys. Anyway, seriously, thank you so much for being here. My name is Steve Guttenberg. This is the Audiophiliac Daily Show. I hope to see you back here again very, very soon.